Another principle for understanding and coming to grips with the issues in the Old Testament is that what is or what is described is not necessarily what ought to be or what is prescribed. You'll see a lot of things that are simply done without regard to God's moral standards. You think of Lot and his daughters, in the incestuous relationship that there was. You think of of Abraham's lying about Sarah. You think about some of David's activities, and there's some of them very morally reprehensible. It's not as though the Bible is condoning those sorts of things, and we have to be careful. Just because those things are mentioned doesn't mean that that is actually an endorsement by God for those sorts of things that are being done.
That all sounds nice and fluffy and pillowy. But what do you make of the story of Jepthae sacrificing his daughter as a burnt offering to God? You know the story where he's getting in a battle and he prays to God, if you will give me victory, the very first thing that comes out to meet me when I return home, I will offer it as a burnt offering. And he returns home, and his only daughter, who he loves, comes out to meet him, playing a tambourine. And he has to sacrifice her. God did not do shit to stop Jepthae from killing his daughter as a sacrifice to God. Human sacrifice. I think if God really detested human sacrifice, even sacrificed to him, why in the hell did he not, after Abraham offered to sacrifice Isaac to God? Why did God not, after telling Abraham not to sacrifice his son, also say, there shall never be offered to me a human sacrifice. No, not forever and ever. It is abomination. No, bitch, God didn't do this shit. This is what's making me doubt him. Because if God was real, and God, the Christian God, he could have prevented a lot of heartache by doing this. Of course, he has his reasons. Trust in the Lord with all thy might, and lean not unto thy own understanding. But fuck you, God, for this. I Googled Charles Spurgeon. He's a wise spiritual man. Let's see what he says. He says Jepthae should have gone back on his vow and committed a lesser sin by breaking his vow instead of committing the worst sin and committing murder. But okay, turn with me into the Hebrews. Hebrews says something about that. Get this goddamn ad off of my fucking page, son of a bitch. And what more shall I say? I shall not have time to tell about Gideon, Brock, Samson, and Jepthae, about David and Samuel and the prophets. So yes, the writer of Hebrews, New Testament now, praises Jepthae for his faith. And what did Jepthae do? He prayed to God and asked God in faith that if God would give him victory, he'd sacrifice the first thing that came out to him as a burnt offering. And he sacrificed his daughter. Now what would have probably happened had he not sacrificed his daughter? Oh, this is good. See, what Christians and people don't understand is that the God of the early Old Testament and the God of the prophets seem to be two different animals. The God of the first 5 books of Moses, Joshua, Judges, seems to be a fiery God who demands his sacrifices. And if he doesn't, this is a God who is so intent on you keeping every word of his law that he commands you to make right it everywhere. It's frontless before your eyes on your post. In other words, this God is obsessed with you keeping every little minute detail of what he says. And if you miss one minute detail, his wrath will wax hot against you and he'll strike you down. He'll strike your ass down. But by the time you get to the prophets, God says, he sacrificed an offering I do not desire, but judgment, to love judgment and mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. You have God seeming to mellow. But here's something interesting I found. Here, the God of the Hebrews hath met us. Please let us go 3 days' journey into the desert and sacrifice to the Lord our God, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword. So, here we have a God that's so demanding. So demands sacrifices, or it demands that you keep every word of his. That if Israel doesn't go 3 days into the wilderness to sacrifice to God, even though Israel has absolutely no power or ability to do so, if the Egyptians tell them no, God is going to still strike their asses down. Even though they might so badly want to go and sacrifice to God, but if they don't, because the Egyptians wouldn't let them, God's going to strike their asses down. Jesus, are you really real? What type of God is this? Did this? So if Jepthae would have not kept his vow and sacrificed his daughter, God's wrath would have burnt against Jepthae, and God would have killed Jepthae. And it wouldn't surprise me if God would have killed Jepthae's daughter too. I don't know about that. I don't know. But how about the time God told the prophet, I'll forget it.
Baby, put my face. I'm a basket cake. Baby, put my face. Broke my back so you would love me, but instead you stood above. You spit me out, you kicked me down. I hate you'll never love me.